good news for South Africans ahead of the busy sporting weekend as Eskom confirms it will keep the lights on. The struggling power utility cites improved generation and expected lower demand for the suspension of load shedding for 3 consecutive days. Now, during the South African Green Hydrogen Summit earlier this week, Electricity Minister Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa said the end of load shedding is in sight. Now, for a discussion of this, I'm joined by Matthew Cruz, an energy expert at Home Energy, speaking to us. A very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time. We've heard several times Electricity Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa speaking about load shedding being a thing of the past soon. And, there's been a lot of criticism towards that. He said it again, that it will be a thing of the past. The end of load shedding is in sight. How accurate is that statement?
Hello, and thank you for having me on the show, and hello to your viewers. So, yeah, I would say that is not an accurate statement of truth coming from the minister, as it's a statement that he said previously, when he mentioned that the generation capacity is plateauing at 29,000 megawatts, and as we saw after that statement, it's plummeted again down to 26,000 megawatts, and we had stage 6 load shedding again. So I'd say to anyone that's on the fence in terms of whether they believe that load shedding is going to be going, you just have to wait till about February next year. January even, we'll start seeing load shedding raising its ugly head once again, unfortunately.
So what should we make for this? What should we make of the slight reprieve with these next few days being free of load shedding?
Great. So the main reason why we're having less load shedding at the moment can be split into 2 main categories. So the one main category is that we've actually seen a reduction in demand, as was mentioned, of the country's electricity demand as a whole. So compared to 3 years ago, we've seen an overall reduction of 10% of demand as a country. And at the current state where we're at the moment, we are generating the same amount of electricity as we were 23 years ago. So for a developing nation, you can imagine we should be continuously increasing our generation capacity over years, and over 2 decades we've remained stagnant. So that's very bad. So we've had a pullback from industry, but also we've had an addition of solar PV generation capacity that's really come along in a big way over the last 9 months. So we've seen coming out of SAPFIA and also Eskom reports that 3,500 megawatts have been put online over the last 9 months, and that's reduced then load shedding by about 3 stages. So there's been a reduction in demand, and then also there's been thankfully a bit of additional capacity coming online from Eskom. So Unit 1 at Kgosientsho Power Station was put online on the 16th of this month, and then Unit 3 was put on at the end of September, and that provides then 800 megawatts each. So them combined is about a stage and a half reduced. And then thankfully going forward, there'll be additional units coming online, Unit 2 coming online in November, and then Unit 4 coming online in December. So we will hopefully have a joyous festive season as a result of the capacity coming online from Eskom and reduced load shedding over this festive season. But unfortunately, I do see it as a brief reprieve as the older power stations and the aging fleets continues to decline and power station units come offline, creating load shedding going into the new year.
So you're saying we're starting to see now the outcome of the solar rooftop project. I mean, I think it was 4,400 megawatts that have been installed across the country over the last 9 months. How many stages of load shedding is all of that worth to put us in this position?
Great. So to break it up, there's rooftop that's on large-scale utility and commercial industrial buildings, and that's the capacity is usually not paired with battery in a big way. It's got a small amount of battery capacity, and you do need to include batteries in those installations if you're a factory in order to mitigate load shedding. Otherwise, you'll just have load shedding continuing even though you have solar panels. So there's a small amount of batteries that's been installed in commercial buildings, but primarily in residential buildings. The people that we serve here at Home Energy, there's a battery that goes in every house that we install solar into that mitigates their demand in the evening. So looking at that 4,400 megawatts, about 3,000 of that was from commercial and industrial. So that would reduce 3 stages of load shedding during the middle of the day between 9 to 5 when businesses are running. And then the rest, the 1,500 megawatts, will then reduce load shedding in evenings by a stage and a half from the houses that are using their batteries instead of the grids to power their homes.
The expansion and strengthening of transmission infrastructure to accommodate new renewable generation capacity is what the Minister also spoke about. What does that process entail?
So yeah, that's one of the main hindrances that we're seeing towards this just energy transition away from coal towards renewables in the country. And what's happening there is a constraint of capacity on the main transmission lines between the south of the country, so where we can generate wind power in the Western Cape, and the ability to get that power up to Gauteng where it's used. So the electricity system was designed to kind of generate the power in Mpumalanga, where the coal is, and then distribute it out into the country, not so much for the generation to be taking place on the outskirts of the country, going into the middle of the country. So what that means is that the transmission grid needs to be upgraded over the next 5 to 8 years. It's going to require about 500 billion rand, which Eskom does not currently have, and we're hoping that rich nations will give us the money. So I don't see that happening very quickly, unfortunately, and that will be one of the main reasons why we do have load shedding going forward over the next 5 years.
Yeah, very well. Thank you so much for your time and weighing in on this discussion. Energy expert Matthew Cruz there.